here's the good news first. Real artists know there are still no shortcuts. If to make a truly beautiful human image still requires a beautiful human behind it, whatever the process is. The true artist, the only job left is for the true artist. Everyone else, and that's scary, is who's replaced. Art is the only thing that's safe because no one can replace that human touch.
I want to get into your writing process, Adam, because I know you write a fair amount of your commercials. You've written books. You do writing for The Tiny Chef. You're currently writing a screenplay on Gilbert Gottfried's life. What is your writing process like? Is it something? Is it a ritual? Is it something that you do like the same way every time, or is it vary depending on what you're writing?
If I wasn't juggling like a family life and then the endless sort of responsibilities of sort of figuring out, running a world and not just being like an artistic hermit, I would much rather to have like super religious writing hours. But I tend to write earlier in the day because I just think my fresh brain now in my new old age, I realize I'm so much better, smarter, faster in the quieter, less pressurized in the morning. Later in the day, I'll get more physical for myself so I can kind of wear myself out and really sleep at night. So it's like that becomes my schedule now. I feel like creatively, I've also learned that I like to have multiple things going on because I mentioned this maybe a long time ago, but I'm coming back to it where it's just like you mentioned the Gilbert Project. It was like, well, I have 3 screenplays I'm interested in. I don't have time to write 3 screenplays. No one does. That's years of work for me. But what's really nice and beautiful about this is like playing chess. If you're a grandmaster, which I'm not, but it's just like that you actually approach the board every time you step over to it. You're not obsessing over the board and walking away and thinking about it all day and then coming back to that board and then walking away from the thing. But it's like, no, I realize now my capacity as an artist, and I didn't know this, which is why certain jam bands and certain rodeos are not going to be for me because I'm too interested in too many things and I really care about them. I like to be able to rotate and that keeps them really fresh and be like, no, they'll all happen or they won't. But I have less need attached to each one because they're not babies, they're seeds. And I'm just planting them and I'm going, oh, let's check on that one and let's water that. And then like a chess game, again, I can look at them as a metaphor, just I can look at it and going, what does this want right now? I get to look fresh. It's even better. You get to look at your projects honestly. And you get to go, oh, I'm excited. How do I feel about it, first of all, when I come to the work? That fucking matters to me. Some people may love to sit at the typewriter and bleed, as Hemingway would say. But that's just not for me. I take too much joy in what I do, on set or writing. It's a gift. It's a pleasure. I mean, not my gift. It's a gift to me that I have the time and the headspace to build worlds in my mind and put them out on paper. And so when I treat it that way and it's religious, it was like I'm just so excited, like Sherbert, to get with my writing. I wish I could spend all my time writing and rubbing that stone because I don't. And so now it's sad because I write very fast, Lance, and I could probably, I know if I turn the world away and over caffeinated and hermitize myself right now, I could have that script because I'm so goddamn close done by next week, at least a draft. Yes. I will not be doing that. And you might ask, well, that's fucking madness, Adam. And fucking Rick Rubin himself might be like, when the fucking, like the dude, right? I can't do him, but he'd just be like, if it calls you, go to it. Like, he'd tell me something like, I always go, what would Rick do? And so I'm deep in my head and it's like the sound of God, only it's Rick. And it's just like, and it was just like, do the fucking thing. You're like, yes, okay. So, but I'm too much pleasing to other factors. I care too much, but all things being equal, I just write. So I wish it was even more hours of the day. I do write every day. It's a joy for me and not a chore. You know what became a chore? And it isn't as soon as I start, but it's pressurizing it. And I realized, well, to create something good, this is why I do it. It's the stuff that's too easy. It's the stuff that I've done for 15, 20 years. And it's like, so now, and I say this quietly so not to be found out, not that anyone cares, but it's like I give that less time. And I give that less time because that's how I get something great out of that, not more time. And that's how I pressurize those things and make them challenging for me. I'm like, oh, can I do that in the record as opposed to taking and overthinking because it doesn't deserve me now in my artist mind. So how do I make that for my spicy brain and how to give me a way in?
I've heard you talk about writing as like a muscle and developing this muscle, and your muscles at this point in the stage of your game, your life, are so developed you can turn them off and on pretty quickly, so that you don't sit in front of a keyboard for a while thinking. Like you could kind of sit down and start writing right away. Is that correct?
I can write right away, but let's be really, really clear. That doesn't mean anything I write is any good. But the muscle of not editing myself, no, because there's different brains. And what I really recommend to everyone, regardless of your skill set, I happen to like my first drafts, and they have the stuff of life and the rhythm, the energy that comes from a first draft or a recorded verbal draft. I don't do that. But like any way you can bring energy to your work, however it's expressed, I'm sure it's the same way for sketching, is going to be the better, more expressive version of the work. So I'm very much a believer in just getting it out. But there's a second muscle. So that's one muscle. And that's being shameless enough and fearless enough to think that all your ideas are worth being expelled. And then there's the other muscle, which is really hard. And these are different because sometimes one of them gets in the way. Your second muscle can paralyze the other one and vice versa. So the second muscle is going through and then having the complete other person living inside you that knows that 90% of that was bullshit and can understands the story and knows what that guy's going for, can come in and wake up, because it's also called writing, and it's very confusing because it doesn't look like writing. It's actually, for me, it's deleting. And
editing.
It's editing. And it was like, or moving or excising and trying on. It's really more like trying things on in a wardrobe. And you're like,
absolutely.
Does that fit? You look at yourself, you go, it's great. It's got to come up. And you're going, this jacket makes me look stupid. And it was like, I'm glad I tried it on. I thought it was cool on the fucking hanger. And you get rid of it. It was like, but only with confidence in both areas. And I mean confidence, because if you're super exceptional at vomiting like Tarantino, but you don't have any ability to edit, you may not get a masterpiece. And even he stumbles under that, his own talent, and then you are at the other end of the spectrum where you're like, I am the world's greatest editor, but I'm afraid of every idea I have. And every idea must be perfect or it doesn't deserve to live. Well, what good are you? Your output is going to be so slow as to not be enjoyable, which is not the point of art.
Right.
Yeah.
Some sculptors may enjoy that process, but that doesn't sound fun to me. It's been a wonderful, in the short term, it's been a wonderful tool. It's because I have the words. I see the gift of all of technology is doing what I always envisioned it would do. Even when I was a little kid, I had been thinking about this convergence of like, oh, I want a bird, but like a Monet. And I had that idea when it was like 1989. I wrote it down. I was just like, now we're actually very much here. It's like bird in the style of Monet. I mean, it's too much of what I was thinking of then. So it always felt like inevitable, right? In a snow crash, kind of a cyber future kind of way. Wow. So growing up on science fiction, all of this felt a little inevitable. So even the conversation that's happening right now is a little basic for what's actually happening. And I think it's happening so rapidly, to your point, Lance, that the things that we're all worried about, the fire that's in the building that everyone keeps writing about, isn't the actual fire. And that's just my personal quick opinion on it. So I'm going to talk about the arts really quickly to talk about what's safe and what I think is really at risk because it's real. But then there's the larger fear, which is, I think, much more worth our hemming and hawing, and I don't have an answer for it. Okay? Here's the good news first. Real artists know there are still no shortcuts. Now, you're going to have shorter fabrication and process times and roles that will completely change or disappear. But the art and the heart and the soul of creativity just shows you what it's worth that much faster. And it takes away the value of just appreciating something purely on a facile level, because everyone will start to just question, it has to be valuable for the idea it holds, not just what it looks like. There are gifts peppered throughout that. As an artist, I can right this minute show you AI I made of Gilbert that are screen grabs from a movie that does not exist. And if I told you I went and shot that, you would probably believe me, because it's not like they look like AI. I wouldn't choose images that feel truly uncanny. My journey is to try and find the truly human in that, just as an example, just as Rip, not to create with it, because the world is somehow allergic to it. But if they really couldn't tell the difference, and the ideas therein were worthy of being seen in the time of the audience that I intended, it wouldn't matter how it was created. Maybe unless the creation of it was part of the story, which is beautiful when it's part of the story. But the real work never changed. You've shortened certain processes. If I want to imagine anything now, I could type it in and within a few minutes get for sure pictures, and now maybe even video that is original stock footage that I can own. And I didn't have to go to set. Now I should be terrified as a director, but only if I'm taking the easiest money possible and I wanted to continue to direct stock photography shit for the rest of my life, or nonsensical scenes that come from a dreamscape that can only be created by a mathematical monster. If to make a truly beautiful human image still requires a beautiful human behind it, whatever the process is, it does not matter. And the sooner we're able to recognize that, now what it does is it throws everything into question. So like you get into bigger fears, ready? So us all going, like, even the proxy war with actors, it was sort of like, everyone was like, background actors are being used by AI. And it was like, my whole point there, and I'm sorry, and I love actors, I was like, maybe there'll be more on-screen roles for you and more money for characters that actually have something to do if all of those background actors were not fed and paid. If we didn't know the difference, and in art, are we to tell any artist, forget the corporations, that there isn't another way to work, a shortcut, a technology that can be exploited to get to where we're going? Would photography close out realist painting? Mostly. But that was going to happen. And it didn't. No, there's still realist painting. And so these are the arguments. So everyone's talking and upset about like acting and CG performances and all this stuff. And it was like, I get it, but it's hand-wringing over the wrong war. The problem is all the ways that AI is being applied in our life that funnel every decision of our making, every penny that we spend, every minute of our day staring at our screens. And it's all algorithms. It's been around for a long time. These are just language models. So it's like, it's getting accelerated to the point where it's the bad actors we can't see in the world. The AI we're not talking about, that's the real problem. That isn't controlled. It's that the genie is out of the bottle, and it has nothing to do with art. If we can make Pixar has been building beautiful AI to create water effects, and Industrial Light and Magic will have fewer frustrated artists, hopefully working at higher capacity eventually, with the power that these tools do to understand our language and turn them into pictures. This is the evolution of expression at such a massive rate. But the true artist, the only job left is for the true artists. Everyone else, and that's scary, is who's replaced. Art is the only thing that's safe because no one can replace that human touch. And it hits different for us. A good story or a good idea, whether it's created by AI or not, had to come from a person. Someone had to at least go through and filter out the rest of the AI internet to give it to you, just like the regular internet. Did the internet close information for all time? But it would be free. It would be like, no, we just have more words. Do they matter less? No, the special ones are that much more special because of it.
Shane and I really appreciate you guys tuning into our YouTube channel today. If you enjoyed this short conversation and would like to see the entire interview, then please head on over to our Substack, where you'll not only find all of our full-length interviews, but a ton of super interesting posts that we've created just for you guys. Link is in the description box below. So until next time, thanks for watching.